Simone sat upright in the bed for hours after that. She didn't sleep again that night. She replayed the moment over and over in her mind, trying to understand why he had been there and what it meant. Until then, there had been a strange routine to her captivity, a predictable pattern that at least allowed her to anticipate when he would appear. That night shattered any illusion of predictability. From that point on, every creak of the building above her made her body tense. Every time she closed her eyes, she feared opening them to find him standing there again, silent and watching. The basement no longer felt like a controlled space with a schedule. It felt unpredictable, and that uncertainty was far more terrifying than the silence had ever been. One afternoon, after weeks of forcing herself to move around the room just to keep her body from growing weak, Simone drifted farther into the opposite corner of the basement than she normally did. She usually avoided that side because it stayed dimmer than the rest, the overhead light casting long shadows that made it feel smaller and more suffocating. But that day, something caught her eye. There in a corner was a black duffel bag. It was sitting partially unzipped, as if it had been set down in a hurry and forgotten. It hadn't been there before. She was sure of it. She had paced this room 100 times, memorized every crack in the floor and imperfection in the paint. This was new. Around the bag, scattered loosely on the ground, were items that did not belong in a space like this. A coil of rope lay to the side, thick and unused. Several zip ties were bundled together, still connected in their plastic strip. There was a large, clean knife with its blade catching the dim light in a way that made her stomach tighten instantly. A used shovel leaned against the wall with dirt residue already on it. Next to it sat a gallon jug of bleach and a small cluster of other cleaning products, unopened but positioned as if they were part of a plan. Simone felt the air leave her lungs slowly. Up until that moment, there had been a strange structure to her captivity. The room had been controlled, stocked, maintained. The man had never touched her. He had never spoken. He had brought food and supplies with a consistency that suggested calculation rather than chaos. But this was something else entirely. Then her eyes landed on something small near the edge of the bag. She recognized the packaging immediately, even before her mind allowed her to process it fully. It was condoms. The sight of them hit her harder than the rope or the knife ever could. A wave of panic surged through her body so quickly that she had to brace herself from collapsing. Until that moment, a small part of her had clung to the idea that she was being held for some twisted but controlled reason, something that might end without crossing certain lines. The condoms erased that illusion. Her mind raced, jumping from one terrifying possibility to another, each one worse than the last. The rope, the zip ties, the bleach, the shovel, each item suddenly felt connected in a way that made her stomach twist violently. The room no longer felt like a controlled holding space. It felt like a waiting room for something worse. And now she understood that whatever plan had brought her there might not be finished yet. A full month had passed, and the urgency that once surrounded Simone's disappearance had started to fade in the public eye, even though it had only grown heavier for the people who actually knew her. The official search parties organized by the police had slowed down, shifting resources to other active cases when no new leads surfaced. Detectives still claimed the investigation was ongoing, but the daily updates became less frequent, and the visible presence of patrol cars in the area gradually disappeared. But Simone's co-workers never stopped looking. Wendy remained in close contact with Anna, often stopping by the office after work hours to talk through theories or ask whether anything new had come up. Anna created a small group chat that included Wendy, Stacy, Greg, and Carter, and they began coordinating their own efforts. They distributed flyers again, revisited the cafe parking lot, and retraced the path Simone would have taken that day. They checked nearby wooded areas on weekends, walking longer distances than they probably should have without professional guidance. It wasn't organized in the way police work is organized, but it was driven by something more personal. Then one afternoon, Anna's phone rang. It was one of her close friends, Jenna, with her voice rushed and slightly breathless as she explained she was at a local store on the edge of town. She said she had just seen something that immediately made her think of Simone's case, and she wasn't sure if she was overreacting or not. According to her, a man dressed in a dark hoodie had come through the checkout line purchasing an unusual amount of supplies such as thick rope, multiple packs of zip ties, bleach, and other heavy-duty cleaning products. The items alone would not normally mean anything, but in the context of everything that had happened, it felt wrong. Anna's friend said she couldn't see the man's face clearly because the hood was pulled low and he kept his head angled downward, avoiding eye contact with both the cashier and the customers around him. Something about his behavior felt calculated, almost like he was trying not to be remembered. She decided on instinct to follow him out of the store. She assumed he would be heading toward a vehicle in the parking lot, and her plan was simple: to get close enough to see the license plate and send it to Anna. But when she stepped outside, she froze. The man did not walk toward a car. Instead, he pulled out an electric scooter from beside the building. Within seconds, he pushed off and began riding away from the lot. Anna's friend hesitated only briefly before getting into her own car and following at a distance, trying not to draw attention. The scooter moved quickly along the side streets, weaving through quieter areas of town where traffic was thinner. She stayed far enough back that he wouldn't notice her, but close enough not to lose sight of him. Then he turned. He veered off onto a narrow road that led toward a more isolated wooded area on the outskirts of town, where houses became sparse and the tree line thickened. Anna's friend slowed her car, her pulse climbing as the road grew lonelier and less traveled. She kept going, trying to maintain visual contact, but as the man reached a bend in the road near the woods, he disappeared from view. When she reached the curve moments later, he was gone. There were no houses directly nearby, no obvious driveways, no visible vehicles, just trees, a dirt path branching off deeper into the woods, and an eerie stillness that made the whole area feel detached from the rest of the city. She pulled over, stepped out of her car, and scanned the tree line, but there was no sign of him or the scooter. She called Anna immediately. "I'm still here," she said, her voice tight. "I don't see him. But this is the last place he turned. It's just woods." Anna didn't hesitate. She told her friend to stay exactly where she was and that she was on her way. Within minutes, she sent messages to the group chat explaining what had happened, describing the rope, the zip ties, the cleaning products, and the way the man had vanished into the trees. The response was immediate. They all agreed to meet there. When Anna arrived, her heart was racing before she even stepped out of the car. Carter was already parked along the side of the road, standing near the tree line as if trying to study the terrain. Shortly after, Wendy and Greg pulled up as well, their expressions tense and serious. Anna's friend pointed toward the curve in the road and the narrow dirt path that disappeared into the woods. They gathered together briefly, lowering their voices instinctively even though no one else appeared to be around. The idea of calling the police was mentioned almost immediately, but hesitation followed. They had no license plate, no name, no clear evidence that the man had done anything illegal. Rope and cleaning supplies, while unsettling, were not crimes. If they called without something concrete, they worried the tip might be dismissed as paranoia fueled by desperation. So they made a decision. They would search the immediate area themselves first, just enough to see if there was anything tangible to justify calling it in.